Hello, sir.
Hello, Ishi.
So, in UK, we are seeing yet another Prime Minister's resignation in this decade. In light of this, the UK has shown a system of a political party where they amount pressure for the PM to resign when dissatisfied with their performance. In India, however, comparisonly, in comparison, you see it's not the same. There's not such pressure that's being built up by the political party. Do you think when it comes to a democracy, what should be given much more priority? Accountability as seen in UK or stability as seen in India?
I'm not sure UK's thing is about accountability. It is more about the panic of the members of parliament. In 10 years' time, UK has seen 6 prime ministers. You're going to see 7th prime minister. Of them, 3 won majorities in parliament. Cameron, he won the election as the leader of the party and as the prime minister because of a very unwise decision to go for Brexit. Instead of resolving the matter internally, he left a very emotional decision, yes or no decision to the people. That's always a failure of leadership. And there are complex issues. You have to reconcile conflicting interests. It's the job of the leadership to make a decision and to persuade the people. Instead, you reduced it to yes or no. So in Brexit, what happened? By a narrow majority, 53-47 or 52-48, people voted to go out of European community. Now, about 60% people want to go back to European community. So it was bad leadership at Cameron. Later, another government came. There were successive prime ministers. Theresa May came. After Theresa May, it was, I think, elections were held. Again, Theresa May prematurely went for elections, hoping that something would happen. Boris Johnson became prime minister. So he won a mandate on his own. The third prime minister won a mandate is Keir Starmer, the present one, won the biggest mandate in the post-Second World War history in parliament. And yet, 6 prime ministers changed, and now 7th prime minister we're going to see in 10 years. That's not accountability, that is panic. Successive parties, bad political judgment. But that apart, the broader issue of internal democracy, you are absolutely right. The parliament is supposed to be the supreme in our system of government, Westminster, because that's the only forum which is elected federally. In case of the states in India, state legislative assembly. These are the only 2 fora by which the people are transferring their sovereignty to their elected representatives. They in turn constitute the government, the state legislature, lower house, or the union parliament, lower house, Lok Sabha. So all our power is going through this route. But unfortunately, what happened in the Westminster model, whether in Britain or in India, is it is the government that controls the shots once the majority is there. As long as you command a majority in parliament, the government controls the shots. So legislation, which is actually a legislature's business, is dictated entirely by the government in our system, both in Britain and in India. This is one of the paradoxes. On paper, this is legislature, but the whole legislative agenda is set by the government. It's entirely the government's prerogative. And once the government gives a diktat, given our culture, given the anti-defection law, etc., the members simply have only one option: raise your hand. You have no option to oppose or anything like that. So it became a little distorted, a whole parliamentary practice. That apart, the distinction between Britain and India, what's happening in Britain, these 6 prime ministers is, even if they got a mandate, sometimes by the charisma or the popularity of the leader, Cameron, Boris Johnson, and Keir Starmer, for instance, they could not retain it for long. There was popular disenchantment. The MPs themselves became restive because the party in power was losing successive by-elections and local elections very badly, not marginally. So there's a panic that we're going to lose the election anyway if this continues. Therefore, there's a search for somebody who can keep them together and get the vote from the people. It is what is happening, not accountability really. It's more a political panic that shows a country in distress. They're not able to find answers to complex problems. And they're thinking somehow that by a miracle, if you change the prime minister, the problems will be solved. Britain has a very complicated crisis. Welfare has gone out of control. The number of people contributing to welfare is fewer increasingly because of the aging population. The number drawing from the welfare kitty, that number is increasing. Taxation cannot be increased beyond a point. Already there is fairly high taxation. Many systems that seemed to work well 20, 30, 40 years ago, they are now in serious crisis, like National Health Service. Britain is the pioneer in the universal health care. Now National Health Service, nobody is happy. Doctors are not happy, nurses are not happy, patients are not happy, people are not happy. And yet they are spending enormous sums. So there is a deeper crisis, and politics is merely a reflection of the deeper societal crisis, financial and societal crisis. Whereas in India, whether it's Narendra Modi or let's say Rajiv Gandhi earlier, or Indira Gandhi, or somebody else, as long as they retained the public support broadly, they had the pulse of the people with them, Parliament simply went along with them. Narendra Modi, for instance, is hugely popular. Now you may like him, dislike him. That's a different matter. But he is usually hugely popular and easily the most popular leader in India. And therefore, Parliament goes along with him. Supposing there is a perception that Modi dramatically failed on everything, and people dislike Modi, then probably in India also, or at least in the ruling party, there is a possibility of some rebellion. Particularly the current ruling party, BJP, is a little more open to that kind of a thing. In some other parties, it's not possible. They are entirely dynastic or individual leadership, unelected. So I think the distinction here is not one of accountability. It's about the leader of the government commanding a majority in parliament, but losing the support of the people. Therefore, parliament majority also is evaporating.
Right.
In case of Britain.
Right. So since you brought in welfare and taxation, UK also has been suffering from low economic growth from some time now, right? Topmost in this also the high borrowing rate, which is the highest since 1998. So if government is spending more on servicing its interest cost and spending less on investment and growth, how can UK overcome this crisis?
I wish I had an easy answer. It's a very complex challenge, very difficult challenge that in some way or other, much of Europe is facing, that UK is facing a little more severely. Now, I'll give you a few examples so people understand them better. And in India, it's a cautionary tale for us. What Europe does is their business. What we do is our business. So we must learn lessons from them. When the going was good, they went overboard in building a very high-cost welfare system, disregarding its future viability and sustainability. 1950s and 60s, in the post-World War era, it was the golden era for Europe and America. America continues to be pretty strong in terms of economic growth for a variety of reasons. By their standards, by developed country standards, because for them 2-3% growth is a great growth because they're already here. For us, anything less than 6-7% is bad. We actually want 8-9%. So we must understand the numbers are not the same for each of us. Now, with aging population, with excessive expenditure on welfare, investments, as you said rightly, in infrastructure are coming down. Anyway, the consumption is coming down because the earners are few, the spenders are many, and therefore where is the money to spend? For a variety of reasons, there is a deep problem. These are relatively small countries, therefore a bit of financial engineering, like London is the financial capital of the world in many ways, therefore they attracted some investment. For some time that was okay. When they had North Sea oil, that saved them for some time. But structurally, economies were not strong enough. Because the growth rate in those countries, 1% is now a good growth. Actually, when 1% is difficult. Now, when you have 6-7%, 8% growth rate, your increasing incomes can help you if you are a little wise. If you have only 0.5%, 1% growth rate or stagnation, then you have no way out of the economic crisis. So, take for instance 2 things in Britain. The National Health Service. I am a great admirer of National Health Service. I have been. Not in the current form, but the idea of universal health care, that nobody will have to pay out of pocket and you get quality health care. The Prime Minister and an ordinary citizen will get the same health care. It was a noble ambition. Initiated in 1948. Anirudh Viwan was the health minister at that time. Now, what happened over time? Because of the way it is structured, Costs have skyrocketed. Now they are spending about 10% of the GDP. People are unhappy. With aging population, the problems are multiplying. Healthcare problems, challenges are multiplying. Also, there's a problem of obesity, smoking, and drinking, which have healthcare consequences altogether. So, net result is they're not able to fund NHS more because healthcare, after a point, if tertiary care becomes the primary source of expenditure, it becomes uncontrollable. Cost goes up, but the benefits do not come back in the same manner. So society is now unhappy and they're not able to figure out how to reform it. They're not able to figure out how to find money for that. Take another case. Child care services. In all of Europe, including Britain, 2.6 to 2.7% of GDP, not government expenditure, of GDP is spent on child care services. In India, we spend practically 0% or 0.01%. Ours is the right approach. Children are the family's responsibility. If the government becomes a nanny and government takes care of the children, government comes to your home and says, Oishi, is your brother taken care of by your parents well? Or tomorrow when you have your own family, they'll come and inspect whether you're taking care of your children. And if they feel you're not taking care of them adequately, they'll take away the child. That's a terrible system. It's a costly system. Nobody loves the children like the parents. And there is no evidence anywhere in the world that government taking away children from families is doing a better job. Actually, they're doing a terrible job. And yet they're spending 2.6% of GDP. Look at India. Our total healthcare expenditure is 1.3% of GDP. Their child care services is 2.6% GDP. Now you have disability pensions, all kinds of disabilities. At least physical disability, to some extent, welfare is understandable. But if there is something called functional disability, there is no physical problem. Somebody says, my mind is not in a correct condition. I have anxiety or some other thing, therefore I am not able to function. Therefore I am entitled to welfare. On a weekly basis, they get about 750 or 1,000 pounds. And where is the money in the kitty? So this mounting welfare burden or old age, the society is taking the burden of the old age people rather than the families taking care of themselves. In our country, in the most part, what happens? We all take care of our parents and grandparents. And when we are now at our age or a little earlier, we start saving for our old age so that we don't become a burden on anybody. That is the right and responsible course of action. If I think that the Indian state will take care of me in the future and keep me in comfort as long as I live, how can you bear that burden? The taxpayer will have to bear the burden. We cannot afford it. So we have to learn a lot of lessons. Europe now, and particularly Britain now, requires a fundamental change of direction and a strong and clear leadership. They had, in the post-Second World War period, two such strong leaderships. One is Labour Party. In 1945, Churchill, the government led by Churchill, though it was a national government with the Conservative Party and Labour Party both participating, but headed by a Conservative Prime Minister. He won the war. Now, that was not an ordinary war. It was a major, major world war. The world's greatest war ever so far. Despite Churchill being the architect of the victory of that war, the people of Britain immediately defeated Churchill and his party and elected Labour Party under Clement Attlee as the Prime Minister. They brought about radical changes. They were necessary at that time because a class-ridden system where your circumstances of birth determined your privilege and your position, not your ability and hard work. That was what Britain was. If you see Downton Abbey and many other shows, you can clearly see the class system before the Second World War. Once they went to the war, all able-bodied men, they realized that upper class or lower class, they all depend on each other for survival. So class system substantially got diluted. Women were relegated to the background, like in many societies. But once the menfolk went to the war, women held fort back home. Government offices, including defense establishments, all the private businesses, everything was handled by women. So women got liberated. And Labour Party embraced that opportunity and transformed Britain. Second time was when they went too far, nationalization, incompetent government, regular coal miner strikes, paralysis, what they called winter of discontent in 1970s, when James Callaghan was Prime Minister. Margaret Thatcher rose from the Conservative Party. She brought back the fundamentals in government. That government that governs least is the best government. Government has a limited but effective role. The rest of it must be for the competition and choice and society. Economic freedom must be there. Competition must be there. Efficiency in governance must be there. She brought back those principles. Again, for 20-25 years, Britain ran well. Now they're exhausted. Now they require a third wave. They require leadership with imagination to address these challenges, because the past solutions don't address the current challenges. You now have to come up with a language and a set of policies and a bold leadership that can inspire people. Now, whether Britain will find it or not, we will have to wait and see.
Since you mentioned a strong leadership that is necessary for Britain, there's an up and coming party in Britain, Reform UK is what they are naming. Do you think in the next general election, this election could break away from its traditional two political party system, which is the Conservative and the Labour Party? And even if Reform UK comes up, how do you think would they bring changes to the crisis?
It's entirely possible. In fact, it's that fear that drove Labour Party to discard Keir Starmer, to force Starmer out of office, and probably bring Andrew Burnham. Andrew Burnham as the Prime Minister, who was recently elected. He was until now Manchester mayor. Now, what did he do? He did one thing very well: transport. Increased the number of buses, integrated multimodal transport systems, made it efficient, reduced the congestion on the roads, apart from a few other things. That made him a very viable prime ministerial candidate. I mean, see the way the political office comes. Not because of his pedigree, not because he was born to so-and-so parents, not because of his money power. He did a very good job in improving the quality of life of people in Manchester. That's what gave him credibility. He is now likely to be Prime Minister. He was brought in only because of the fear of Reform Party. Now, if Burnham does a very good job, probably they will ward off Reform Party. That's the hope. That's the reason why Labour Party MPs are choosing now a new Prime Minister. But will Nigel Farage, the leader of Reform Party, will he, if he becomes Prime Minister, be able to govern? Nobody knows exactly what's going to happen, but by past record, unlikely. Because he was the cause of problems in Britain. The whole Brexit idea, because of the hatred or anger against the immigration from particularly Asian and other countries, and Asian and Middle Eastern countries, was all engineered by Nigel Farage. He was the man who used that language. And he was the man who forced Britain to go to Brexit. And a vast majority in Britain are now opposed to Brexit. Nigel Farage's vote is only 32-33%. But in a triangular contest, that may be enough to win, just like Vijay won with 32% in Tamil Nadu. That may happen. But I don't know if there's a solution, because his ideas so far have not been productive. They actually have been pretty destructive of Britain. Now he may change his approach. He may come up with a sensible agenda. He may prove to be the right leader. We cannot anticipate now. But to expect that to happen automatically will not be very wise, because there is nothing in his articulation that shows a fundamental change in direction. But if the direction comes, change of direction comes to suit the requirements of the time from anybody in Britain, then that country will be happy. Otherwise, I think they'll go through this decline in the long term, and eventually, politically, they have to find a resolution.
Right. So initially, you had briefly mentioned about how India could learn from this Prime Minister's resignation and the constant changes. Could you substantiate like few changes?
One is what not to do from Britain.
Yeah.
Make sure that public expenditure is for public good, collective good. That's the first priority. And be thrifty in expenditure. Don't spend excessively to get the same result. Be very frugal and get the best outcome with the money you spend, so that the future is not burdened. You mentioned, for instance, huge debt burden, huge interest burden. There are no free lunches. If you're overspending today, your children are going to bear the consequences. Now, India is about our caring for our children. No parents would like to burden their children with debt without creating assets and income. Our parents sacrifice a great deal for the children, for the future. They save money. If a government simply take away money from the future, burden them with the debts without any assets or income, earning opportunities, we are destroying our future generation. And therefore, welfare must be balanced with economic growth. You must never spend more than your income on welfare. And even for the investment, it must be wise investments that give us returns on investment. in terms of economic growth, quality of life, etc. And what we should learn from them is the other part, the good part is how do you organize our politics and our democracy? Don't make an individual's power all important. Let there be genuine internal democracy in the political parties. And that should start actually with the candidate's choice and leadership choice. In Britain, actually, they committed a mistake. Some months ago, Sam Burnham wanted to be candidate for the Labour Party in a by-election. Anticipating that Burnham's coming to Parliament will pose a threat to him, Keir Starmer used his office as Prime Minister and party leader to prevent him from becoming a candidate locally. That did not help him. Actually, Labour Party candidate lost that election badly. So when the next opportunity came, because of the popular support, Burnham had to be nominated as a candidate. He won hands down. Now he's threatening the Prime Minister. He's probably become the Prime Minister. So learn the art of internal party democracy. Do not crush the opposition. In Britain generally and in Western Europe, generally there is internal party democracy. They allow orderly transition without any major things. And if somebody opposes the leader, they are not thrown out of the party or rejected or ostracized. I think those positive qualities also we should learn. We should learn from their mistakes. We should learn from their good practices.